The President of the United States is always the most powerful, influential person in the world, but the next most influential person might be the First Lady. If you're new to my channel, I'm Laura Youngblood, and welcome to From Laura's Perspective. At least once a week, I post a new video essay on a different topic, with many, but not all, being about politics and important social issues. Today, I'm going to talk about the First Ladies of the United States, what they do, and why they're considered such a big deal. Now let's get started. Most First Ladies are the President's wives, but this is not always the case. The First Lady essentially serves as a hostess on behalf of the President, and this title can be held by any woman chosen by the President. If the President is a widower or his wife does not wish to serve in the role of First Lady, he will instead give this title to his daughter, sister, mother, or other female relative who is at least 13 years old. As a few examples, Thomas Jefferson's First Lady was his daughter, Martha Jefferson Randolph. James Buchanan's was his niece, Harriet Lane, and Grover Cleveland's was his sister, Rose Cleveland. Although this title has unofficially existed ever since Martha Washington was called Lady Washington during her husband George's presidency, it's been said that the title was not given its name until the mid-19th century. Specifically, in 1849, James Madison's wife, Dolly Madison, was referred to as a First Lady when then-President Zachary Taylor gave her eulogy at her funeral. Today, the title of First Lady is held by Jill Biden, wife of Joseph Biden. Although they're married or otherwise related to a very powerful politician, and despite the fact that they sometimes advise the president, First Ladies virtually hold no political power whatsoever. The role they play in the White House is mostly ceremonial. Specifically, the First Lady is the hostess of the White House, and either accompanies or replaces the president at official ceremonies and political functions. It's been said that the role of the First Lady was actually started by the First Lady, Martha Washington. Her hosting of various affairs of state at the nation's capital eventually became what's known today as the Republican Court. It's almost as if Martha Washington and her succeeding First Lady, Abigail Adams, were homologous with the ladies of the British Royal Court, a function in the empire from which the American colonies had just been freed ever since, and definitely not in this century. Since 1964, the incumbent and all living former First Ladies are honorary members of the Board of Trustees of the National Cultural Center, the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. Now, just because First Ladies don't have any say in the nation's law or politics and mostly serve to look pretty at the White House and other political functions, doesn't mean that they don't have any substantial influence on American society. By this, I mean two things in particular. The first is one of the primary means through which First Ladies attract the attention of the public is with their style of dress. It can almost be said that the First Lady sets a trend with her fashion of dress during her husband's presidency and thereafter. This often starts with the infamous dress the First Lady wears at the inauguration on January 20th, the year of a new presidency, then continues with the dresses and clothing she wears from then on out. As with many First Lady trends, this all started with Martha Dandridge Custis Washington. As far as fashion goes, Lady Washington is best known for the royal purple silk wedding shoes Martha wore when she married George, which are known today as the Manolo Blahniks of her time. As was typical of the 1810s, Dolly Madison wore an open robe of silk satin, which was hand-embroidered with butterflies, flowers, and dragonflies. Harry Collins designed quite a unique dress for Florence Harding in the early 1920s, which had a rhinestone-trimmed blue velvet ribbon and was decked with pearlized sequins. One particularly notable staple of First Lady fashion is Jackie Kennedy's evening gown. This dress, which had an overlay of crepe chiffon, was designed by Oleg Cassini, and Jackie wore it to her husband's administration's first dinner and while visiting Tunisian President Habib Bourguiba. In the late 1950s, it seemed like women everywhere wanted the Mamie look, or to follow the fashion trends set by Mamie Eisenhower, even more so than was the case with most first ladies. One of the most notable examples of this is the rose-colored silk damask evening gown, which included a matching purse and pair of shoes, and which Mamie wore to a 1957 dinner with the British Embassy. From what I've said about first ladies so far, it may sound like their main purpose is to look pretty, thereby making the president look good. But to say this is the only thing they contribute to society could not be further from the truth. Being so close to someone with great political power, it only makes sense that the First Lady would want to give her thoughts on political issues that matter to her and/or the president. Many First Ladies begin a program to shed light on a political cause about which they're passionate, but to avoid getting too much backlash from the public, they try to steer towards causes that are less politically divisive. This became much more common in the 1920s, when women started to be taken just a little more seriously, if for no other reason than their connection to the president. For example, Eleanor Roosevelt spoke out on women's rights, civil rights, and humanitarian efforts during her husband FDR's infamous New Deal. Speaking of which, make sure to check out my early video on one of FDR's most notable initiatives of the New Deal, the Fair Labor Standards Act. In the 1970s, Betty Ford spoke out on women's rights and substance abuse, the latter of which was a huge social taboo at the time. Nancy Reagan, who was First Lady for most of the 1980s, is still quite notable today for her Just Say No campaign against drug abuse and underage drinking. Michelle Obama had two notable movements during her time as First Lady, the first being Let's Move, which sought to tackle childhood obesity, and the second being Let Girls Learn, which sought to address the lack of access to education, which is still an all too common reality for girls in third world countries. Melania Trump sought to tackle cyberbullying among the youth with her Be Best campaign. And today, Jill Biden seeks to support military families with her Joining Forces campaign. Thank you all so much for watching. There's actually an exhibit at the Smithsonian Museum of American History all about the country's first ladies, and I was actually inspired to make this video when I saw that exhibit while visiting the Smithsonian myself on the way home from vacation this past summer. If you ever go to DC yourself, I highly suggest you check out not only the First Ladies exhibit, but the museum as a whole, as there's a lot you can learn about our nation's complex history while there. What other aspects of history, government, and culture would you like to see a video essay on? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you like what you saw here today, you'll love what you can see by clicking some of the links on your screen. Liking all that is reason enough to subscribe to my channel so you can get even more.